Jen Richmond here. I am sitting down on the Saturday morning to curate another data set for the Tidy Tuesday project. And I thought that I would just turn on screen record and show you how easy it is to contribute a data set to the community using the functions within the tidytuesdayR package. So I found our data packages are a good place to start if you are a beginner data curator, because the data is typically formatted in a way that doesn't require much cleaning and is typically really well documented. So I found this data from the Roundabouts package by Emil, and I thought that it might be a good contribution to the Tidy Tuesday package challenge. So the first thing you want to do is to make sure that that data hasn't been used for Tidy Tuesday before. So you can do that by going to the Tidy Tuesday GitHub and just searching for a keyword. So if I just put in roundabout here, search in this repo for roundabout, the only things that come up are something from a synopsis CSV, which doesn't seem like it's the same data, and maybe Simpsons locations data, which is also not the roundabout package data. So it looks like we're in the clear. This data hasn't been used for Tidy Tuesday before. So what I want to do is go into RStudio, and I'm going to load the Tidy Tuesday R package, and then I'm going to look for the function in the package that is about curating data. So TT curate data is what I want. So if I run that function, it pulls up this R script that really does hold your hand through the process. So the first thing that you want to do is load the Tidy Tuesday R package, and then you want to run this TT clean function. And what that does is create a submission folder for you, and it creates a template of the kind of cleaning script that you're going to want to provide to show the Tidy Tuesday community what you had to do to the data to get it from its raw state into the state that might be most useful to them. So I'm going to run TT clean. And what you'll notice that over here in my files, I have this new folder called TT submission that at the moment only has one R script in it called cleaning. And John gives us some nice tips about the kind of thing that you will want to fill this cleaning script with. For this package, for this data set, I'm reading the data from a package. So I've done a little bit of pre-work of working out what kind of cleaning I might need to do. And as much as I just said that package data often requires less cleaning than other data sets, in this case, I did a little extra to make it a bit more usable. So I'm going to copy my cleaning into this cleaning file, and then I'll walk you through what I'm doing. So here I am loading the roundabouts data from the package. So when you're putting together a cleaning script, it's a good idea to use this notation where we say what package the function comes from, double colon, and then what the function is, just to be explicit about which functions you are using in this cleaning. So I'm getting the roundabouts data from the roundabouts package. So if I run that and we look at this data, we can see that we have names of roundabouts, their locations, some coordinates of those locations, types, the year completed, approaches and driveways, lane types, other information about each roundabout. Now, when I looked at this data, I thought first that this address column is likely to be more useful to the Tidy Tuesday community if we separate it out into country, state, county, and town, right? Similarly, these coordinates are longitude and latitude coordinates. They would be more useful if they were in separate columns. Right? So what I've done in this cleaning is first I found a couple of weird tags in some of the addresses. This square brackets C data was not playing nicely with my stringr functions, so I removed those to begin with. And then here I am extracting the country information first. So the country in this data is represented within 2 round brackets at the end of the string. And so this string extract is pulling the information from those last brackets, then removing those brackets, and then putting everything other than what is in those new brackets into a new variable called address2. And then taking, separating that address2, which is now simply information about the town and the county and the state, separating those into 3 separate columns, separating by comma. And then I'm doing the same separation on the coordinates, separating those coordinates into latitude and longitude by comma, and then reordering the variables to make those new columns embed in the front of the data frame to make them more visible. And then changing the data types. So one thing that you might want to do for Tidy Tuesday users is just change things that are actually numeric into numeric to make one less step for the user before they can actually use this data. So if we run this, we get a new data frame that is roundabouts clean, and I've left the original address in there because in all likelihood my stringr basics may have made some errors, and so I want the users to be able to see how I came about getting the town and the county and the state out of that original address. But now we have town and county or area, because this data is not always in the US, state or region, because it's not always in the US, and country. We have latitude and longitude separately, and then everything else, all the other variables. All right, so this data is looking pretty usable for Tidy Tuesday at this point. So if we go back to, we want to save our cleaning script now, and let's just put a little note about what we're doing to explain. So data read in from the roundabouts package. Cleaning removes strange tags, separates country, town, county, and state columns. Separates latitude and longitude columns and fixes data types. All right. Okay, so we'll save our cleaning script, and then we go back to the TT curation R file and look at what the next step is. So replace your dataset name with the name of the data frame created in TT clean. Run this once per data frame. All right, so this is remembering the last dataset that I curated. So we want to replace this with roundabouts clean. We don't need that one. And then if we run that, we'll notice that we now have a MD file that we want to complete with the metadata for this data set. So this each of these variables appears in the Tidy Tuesday project with a data dictionary, and this is what we're creating at this point. So I'm going to go through and write a description for each of these variables. It's possible that there is useful information in the package documentation about this that you can use. So I'm going to go back and see if I can find that. Hey everyone, I am back having completed the descriptions for each of the variables in the roundabouts data. I went and looked at the package to try and find data dictionary type information, and this wasn't a great example. And I went back and looked at the original database, and there also didn't seem to be very good descriptions of these variables readily available. So most of these variables are fairly self-explanatory. For a couple of them, I have given the user an idea of what the categories in these variables are. So letting them know that we're talking about types of roundabouts. Some of them are just called roundabouts and others are traffic calming circles, etc. So do your best to describe what each of the variables are for the users, so that they can get started with the data easily. But if you can't find good descriptions, don't worry about it too much. Okay, so we have now got both a cleaning script and the MD file that will become the data dictionary. Let's go back to the TT curation process, and the next step is to create an introduction. So if we run this TT intro, you'll notice that over here in your files, you now have another MD file called intro, and there is some example text to give you an idea of how to write an introduction for a Tidy Tuesday dataset. The first set of text you want to describe what the data is, maybe where it comes from. Then you want to include a quote from an article about the data, and then you want to come up with a few questions that might help Tidy Tuesday participants get started. So I have written up a little introduction in my notes app, so I'm just going to copy that in. We'll make this a bit easier to read. Okay, so here I'm saying that this week we are exploring data from the Roundabouts package by Emil. The Roundabouts package provides an R-friendly way to access the Roundabouts database, which is compiled by Kiddison and Associates, and contains information about the location, configuration, and construction of roundabout intersections around the world. This quote comes from an article that I found on the Kiddison website about roundabouts in the US. And I've come up with a few simple questions that might help users get started. How has roundabout construction evolved over time? Are there certain regions adopting them faster than others? What types of intersections are most commonly converted to roundabouts? And where are the roundabouts with the most unusual configurations? High numbers of approaches or driveways. So we want to save our intro file and then go back to our curation document. And the next step is to save a PNG image to the submission folder and then to provide metadata about your submission. So I have over here downloaded the hex file from the package, which is totally fine to do if you are using data from an R package. And I've completed each of the fields in this TT meta function. So we're going to call the data submission roundabouts across the world. The article that we're going to use is called How Many Roundabouts Are in the US, which is this one that came from the Kiddleson and Associates, and the link to that article underneath. The source of the data comes from the roundabouts package and a link to the GitHub repo for that. The image file is called roundabouts_hex, and I've got some alt text that can be used by people who are using a screen reader to describe what that image looks like. And then the attribution is the person who curated the data, which is me, and some contact details for people who want to get in touch with me via GitHub or Blue Sky. So once you run this TT meta function, it creates a meta YAML file, and you can change anything that you find in here that you before you submit. So this is the information that is used to create the table that participants use to access the data. All right, that is looking pretty good. So we want to save that. We want to make sure that each of our files are saved before submitting, and then we run TT submit. So we've saved, and we'll close out our meta file. We'll just check that there's no typos in our intro. Yep, we'll close that. Cleaning file looks good. We'll close that. Our data dictionary looks good. We'll close that. All right, everything is saved. And then the last thing we do, and this is, I think, the most magical bit of the tidytuesdayR package, is you run TT submit, and provided that you have a GitHub account, it auto-magically does a pull request and puts all your files into the GitHub repo for John to review. So I'm going to run that, and it's going to go chug chug. All right, so this is, if you've never created a pull request before, this is what it looks like. It's essentially, I am requesting that my version of the Tidy Tuesday repo, which the package is auto creating, I didn't have to create it, that contains this new submission is, I'm requesting that it be pulled into the Tidy Tuesday repo, and I am going to say, press this green button and say create pull request. And you don't need to do any of this. I might just put a little note about what the data is. You can create the pull request, and then this comes in this list of pull requests on GitHub, and then you can check for John to tell him that you've checked that the data is not used on Tidy Tuesday before, it's less than 20 megs. You can imagine at least one visualization. You have used cleaning R and created CSVs, filled in the descriptions, edited the intro, have listed at least one image, and completed the meta YAML. And there are some fancy submission checks that run automatically. So once those run, you might get some notifications from GitHub about things that might have passed or failed those automatic checks. And then usually John checks it manually and gets back to you if he needs any changes. But congratulations, that is your first submission to Tiny Tuesday. Well done for contributing to open source community. Hope this has been useful.